know React, they can know backend, front end, whatever. But once you get to the point that they need to write just HTML or CSS, they just start struggling. And for them, HTML is just divs. So yeah, today I hope that we will I will be able to show you that you can use a few techniques to build HTML layouts very fast, and basically show you some tricks in CSS. Cool. Yeah, as usual, all the events are, I'm keep repeating that this is more conversation. So I will show you like what I'm doing. I will explain what I'm doing, how I'm doing, why I'm doing. And if you have any question on any point, please just feel free to ask straight away. You can unmute yourself and ask the question. So I will explain, and I'm pretty sure that, and this is from my experience, that once you have the question, I bet that a few more people will be interested in the answer. So again, feel free to interrupt me on any point and just ask whatever I'm doing, and I'm happy to explain. So first is I will share, for those who doesn't know, we have Slack. Basically, we are Coders in Hoods is a community, but we have a Slack channel where you have a lot of developers, people who learn in programming, and you can join there. And if you have any questions, you learning something on the site, I don't know, doing the free code camp or whatever, and you have questions, just send a message there. Our instructors always online, so they will be able to help you explain, etc. So this is the link. In terms of the presentation, so you can see that it's pretty short for today, because what we will do is you will have a link to design, and this is pretty much it. So I will share the link to the presentation in the end of the session, and yeah, so everyone, after the presentation, after the lesson, you can actually open the design and actually finish or build the landing page by yourself. So also, I will upload the video straight after the session. So it might take like 2 hours or something to process, maybe 3, 4, depends on YouTube. But I will upload this video straight to our YouTube channel, which you also can find here. So this is a link as well. So you will click on the link. Once I will share the slides, you can click on the link and join. Subscribe, yeah, and follow and get all the videos, the latest videos from all events, even if you are not participating in them for any reason. Cool. Before we start, do you have any questions? No? Okay, perfect. Then let's start. So as I said, we want to build this page, right? So yeah, let me send. I see that somebody already hanging around the design. So let me send a link here in channel, in Messenger. So, but yeah, feel free to to check, to open in Figma and see what's going on here. But as I said, I will share the link to slides and everything in the end of the event. Cool. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that we will not finish this today. I'm like more than sure. But we will probably able to build the first part, second part, and maybe the third part. So I'm not sure about this one, but this is, it depends on how many questions we will have on the road. But normally if people, because I'm doing that not for the first time, with this landing page. So I know that depends on how many questions we have. We might be able to complete just 2 sections or maybe up to the 3rd section or something. So yeah, and the remaining you can try to do it yourself at home. And again, feel free to ask questions in Slack channel. Cool. So before we start, let's talk a bit about theory. So if you start writing your HTML, I'm more than sure if you're already writing HTML and CSS, I'm like 100% sure that you refactored your HTML a lot. And you start your project, you start writing some HTML, building the element, putting elements on the right position, etc. And you start refactoring because you can't move some specific element to specific position, and you start struggling, you become frustrated, and like it just pain because and you start thinking that you don't know CSS. And you start refactoring some HTML, try to add more CSS, try to use some crazy techniques from CSS like position absolute or things like that. But again, from my experience, I know that 99% of cases why your CSS doesn't do what you expect is just because of poor HTML structure. So it's, again, I had quite a few students with this same question all the time. They are asking like, oh, I'm struggling with CSS. I can't put this element to the right place. And once we start conversation, we're figuring out that it's about HTML. That is why HTML is very important. It's very easy to start write HTML, but it's very hard to write proper HTML. And I'm interviewing people because I'm currently hiring for a front-end developer for my team. And even like experienced developers, they still writing not semantic tags. They not use semantic tags. The structure is poor. And yeah, this is very, very common practice. So before you start writing your HTML, and to reduce the amount of refactoring, I'm always suggesting you to start with framing your design. So if you normally you get the design from your designer, right? And then what you want to do, you want to frame and divide all sections, put every single section into the box, right? So you want to kind of frame it how you want to group your elements on the page. And this is important because this grouping will help you to manipulate your elements much easier and position them around the page. That is why you want to kind of frame everything. With practice, once you start doing that, you will do that once, twice, 10 times. You will get to the point that you can actually build, like frame whole design in your mind. So you will stop doing the framing on the design and you will start doing that in your mind. So you'll basically just become you will become more experienced, and that will be much easier. Where is the images? Good question. So once you click on any image, see you have the image, and you can actually click export in Figma to export the image. And that works for every single image. You focus in on the element and then you just click export. And this is what we will do today because yeah, this is what we need to do. So again, I will explain we will start writing this, the code, the actual code, and I will start explaining. But here, let's start from the first section. Always, file not found. Well, that's interesting. Which image are you referring to? The main one. So if you focus in, let me actually try to do from your side, right? Yeah, 1 second. If I go, maybe you're right, I don't know. Let me just open that in a new incognito tab. It requires me to sign in. Let me actually check this. Link to what? To Figma or what? Sorry. Or just images. Click on the image and you have an export. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Yeah, Ether, you're right. So you need to focus specifically on the element, right? So you have your elements and they supposed to be exportable. This is a Figma thing, right? So let's say try on some just image. So just focus on specifically, you need to click quite a few times to get to the actual image. And once you got there, you can actually export it. I have an export in your right slide. Yeah, exactly. Here. Okay. Oh, you can't access the Figma files. That's interesting, because this is a link. Just create an account. And yeah, this is the link, same link. Yeah. Do you have accounts in Figma? Because you must have account to be able to access to the file, and you actually can open that in the web. I haven't had an issue. Okay. Yep. Perfect. Yeah, so Figma requires account. You need to create. It's free, so yeah, not a problem. You can actually create one. Cool. Yeah. So let's start. So when you start building your HTML, it's all about structure, right? So I strongly recommend you to build one by one. I mean, section by section. So don't write everything. For example, you have a landing section, right? The main section. So you take in your main section. I hope it's visible for you. So you have a main section, and I'm creating a container, right? I'm wrapping the whole section in one div, let's say, right? In one block. Then if I want to have, for example, spacing on the left and right, I probably want to put all my content inside another div. Then I want to have a navigation, and I want to have some content area. So 2 more divs. And then I want to have some content inside, and I want to have another element, another block here in this one. So I'm wrapping into block elements as well. And then I will be able to position everything in very, very easily and put the image, etc. So that will be very, very easy. So first of all, I need an image, right? The one, let me actually export it, landing. Let me just save it. So I've saved the image. I have the image, right? I don't have an index.html file. So styles, let me actually add CSS, and I will create an index CSS, right? To be honest, I didn't write CSS for a while. I'm using Sass, but yeah, that's left, right, perfect. So we can actually write CSS here, and we will have some HTML here, right? So because I'm using VS Code, we have a shortcuts like put exclamation mark, hit tab, and you will get the basic layout, right? I'll call it landing page. So let me actually open my landing page in the browser. So in my browser, yeah, it's empty, right? So let me just add something. Hello, friend. And we have our element. Perfect. So let me actually create a folder, images, EMGs, or maybe EMG, and put the first image, which is wave, into the folder. Okay, so we have index HTML, and we have CSS folder and an image folder, right? This is it. So let's try to create our first section. So first is I will always also show you how to use Emmet, which is the plugin built into VS Code. So to spell it is Emmet, like this. You can check what is that, but it is a built-in with VS Code. It helps you to write HTML much easier, and I'll show you why. So let's start with the main section, right? Let's say I'll call it main, because we have an HTML element main. Inside, this is Emmet. Inside my HTML element, let me just have a bit more space. Just rearrange my windows in a sec. Yeah, perfect. So inside my main, as I said, I want to have two elements, right? I want to have navigation and the content. So let's say I will have two elements, so two siblings, right? First is navigation. Second is div with class. So dot means class with class content. So two things, right? So on this stage, if I hit tab, it basically created me main element with two elements inside, div and navigation, right? And here is my class, right? So I'll just revert it. So class content, hit tab, we have class content. But it's too simple. So I will go further. And for the nav, I have a UL inside with my elements, right? So what I will do that here, I will have a UL, which is list, right? So we try to be semantic. And like nav list, let's say, right? Actually, I like underscores, so I will use underscores. Now list, and then inside, I will have allies, and there I will have anchor because they're supposed to be clickable kind of anchors, right? So I will wrap it into, because I want to multiply by how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to have 5 elements, right? And I want to have a text inside. So item and $sign. So that means that I want to create an anchor with text inside, which is item, and the $sign represent the order. So that will be 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Right? So basically we have, if I hit tab on this stage, we already have navigation list, and we have allies, and we have anchors inside with element with text, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is pretty much it. Yeah. So one simple line converted into the actual layout. Okay, cool. So we have the navigation, right? This is it. Let's go further. So we want to have another, like a content area. So we have content, and here I will probably have something like another div with like a container class for my elements inside, and there inside I want to have 2 elements, probably something like h2 with text. What's that? Learn how to go. Let me actually copy the text. So I will save my time, and plus the sibling will be probably h1. That will be this code, this text. So this line, right, of Emmet, hit tab, and we have the first section, right? The only thing that we forgot is about image, but we will fix it in a second. So we can do like image. for our wave. Yeah, so we can do images and put our wave there. Wave. So yeah, and some anchors. So we don't have anything for now. So I will just put empty hashes. And so we have home, HTML, and CSS. Let's use it the proper words. Home, HTML and CSS, HTML and CSS, probably no spaces. Then we have help, about us, and contact us. So help, about us, and contact us. Contact us. This is it. So if I refresh, we actually have the first section, right? This is it. All we need for the first section, which is great because it looks almost like we want. Very close to our design, right? Almost. So let's start styling actually, because we don't need any CSS, any HTML for any additional HTML for this section. So let me just move to my section. The good practice is to write comments like main section, right? So you can actually divide your CSS and make it more readable. Cool. So let me start with my main. So we have main, right? This main supposed to have background black, right? So I'm adding background and that will be black. So let's refresh. Woo. Can anyone tell me why it doesn't work? I bet you know why it doesn't work. Why we are not applying our CSS. Anyone? Yep, exactly. So we forgot to add our CSS to our HTML, and our HTML file has no clue where is our CSS. So I will add link and add CSS index. So now my CSS actually, my HTML actually knows about CSS. Refresh, we have a background, right? So you see that I have some margin around, some gap. And if I open, it's actually a margin. And that is happening here in body because the Chrome by default sets a margin. And every browser has own default stylings. And that sometimes may be very annoying because you start your design, you start working, you've designed your platform, which looks great in Chrome, but once you open in, I don't know, Mozilla or Safari, you see that your design is different and sometimes it's even broken. And this is because the other browsers, they have own default stylings. And to fix this problem, what you will use, and this is what everyone do basically, it's using tiny library normalize. It's just a CSS file. Basically, it's just literally a CSS file. So you can put a link to this file, right? So basically, before your CSS, so you will overwrite it. So you will not overwrite actually yours. You just put this custom CSS from normalize. So now in all browsers, your default CSS will be the same. So this just a few lines. I don't know how, like 200-300 lines of CSS. And now if I save it, go to my landing, refresh, you see now I don't have any gaps. This is because the default stylings has been reset by the normalize CSS file. So cool, we have the image, right? It's still slightly broken because the image is too big, right? So what I want to do, I want to position my image. Probably I want to add a class to this image. Class, sorry, React habits. Main background. Always use like semantic class names, so you will actually can read your HTML and understand that, okay, so this refers to that one, and it's much easier to debug your code. So here I want to do position absolute, right? To position this image behind the text. Basically, I'm taking it from the regular flow of elements, and I'm just setting the position absolute, and then top 0, so that the image should start from the top, and right 0 and from the right, because it should basically stick to this side and go to the top. The problem now, once I will save it and refresh the page, that because I removed this image from here, the height of the area is different, right? So it's just different. So what we want to do is actually set to the min height, and I will set to 100 viewport height. So basically that will be responsive. So let's see, something like that, right? Ooh, we still have we have a margin, but this comes from the list. We will fix it in a few seconds. So let me actually we can actually move to the next step. So we can style our navigation. So for navigation, not class. So for navigation, I want to, what do we have? I want to set, we just have one element. Perfect. So this is just a container. Basically, I want to have like class. Let's leave it empty for a second. And I will put this one. And here I want to set display. We will use this flex today because it's much easier to position all your elements. Display flex. And then justify content flex end. So I want to put my elements in the end of the row to the right, very right. And this is pretty much it. As you can see, now I have them there, right? But they are like, the color is wrong. We still have margin because this is from the list. So by default, your UL has margins and padding. You can see that we have some padding and we have some margin. So what we want to do is just margin 0, padding 0. And also, you probably noticed before that it has some dots because this is list default stylings. That is why we want to list style to none. Ooh, something like that. Refresh. We don't have any gap. Now it's properly styled. Main background relative to body or HTML. So it's relative actually to the closest non-static element, which is basically the HTML. So it goes to the very top. Yeah. So HTML is your parent. Yep. You can kind of stop it by doing position relative. Sorry. Ah, my goodness. Relative. And then the main background will refer to this one. So that will be relative to your main. But it doesn't change anything in our case because it's still on the top. So let's style our container first. So now we want to add some class, probably class, some generic class, container. And then I want to create some generic class on the very top, which will be probably like 90% width, 90% max width. So the good practice is to have some limit of the container. Why is that? Because, for example, somebody has a I have 32-inch screen, and somebody has even bigger screens. So you don't want to move your head from left to right by reading the content. So you limit it into the center, and you can actually check any other websites. You will see that all your content normally goes in the center and you have gaps on the left and right. And this is because to improve the UX of the website. That is why you set in max widths, and normally we have a few kind of gradation, and depends what you want to use. It's all 100% up to you. You can use 1024, you can use 440, you can use 1600s. So I will use 1440 pixels. And then I want to use margin 0 auto. So I will position my elements to the center, right? So now I can use this class to every single element, and I'm create to where I need to create this container, this alignment. So if I go to here, you can see that now I have a tiny gap, and if I start expanding my screen, you can see that the gap is bigger now, right? So yeah, now we have this, basically we have this container. So the next step is, we don't need this one. The next step is actually style our elements here. So we have our nav list. Then I want to style so first, again, just to keep hierarchy, because we probably need another li stylings in a few minutes. So you keep the structure from top to bottom. You don't write your elements just anywhere, just stylings just anywhere. So you keep the flow, right? So if you're going from top to bottom, like your elements. So you have your nav list element here. So color is supposed to be white. Here is important thing. So if you don't know that anchor is not inheriting color from parents. So you need to set color specifically to anchor tag. And text, you probably saw that underline for the anchor element. This is a default styling. So what we need to do is text decoration to none. Save it, refresh, and we have it, right? Beautiful. We probably want to add some fonts. Let's add some fonts, Google Fonts. And let me just add Roboto. So we have some, let's say we don't want to have this. I will use just light. I will use regular. I will use black. I think those three should be fine. So I'm adding my fonts to my HTML, right? Edit. And now I just want to add this to all my elements. By the way, it's a subject to the to another thing, but to some other lesson. But I also want to set box sizing to border box. What it means is that the width and height will include your include the padding space. So if you have, for example, you have 100 by 100 elements, and if you start setting spacing like 20 pixels, like a padding 20 pixels, that means that the content area will shrink, but your element will still be 100 by 100. If you don't do that, and you have 100 by 100, and you set in the padding to 20 pixels, that means that your element become not 100 by 100, but 140, but 140, because you will get additional 20 pixels on the top, bottom, left, and right. Right? That is why you want to do this box sizing border box. So let me close this, refresh. Yeah, we have our font. Perfect. The next step is that I want to add stylings for my list. So I want to have some spacing. And here, basically, I will add some margin. Margin to top and bottom, probably 0. We don't need any spacing. Potentially for now. Oh, we actually stick to the top. Maybe we want to have something. Maybe we can add some margin to this one. We probably will. So margin left and top and bottom 0, and let's say 2M is left and right. Something like that. Maybe 1M is enough because it's too much. Refresh. Yeah, it's better. And for the whole list, I want to set, you can actually override it. So margin, actually no, you can do this. 0 top and bottom should be, let's say 1M, and left and right should be 0. Refresh. Ooh, yeah. So this is what we don't want to have, right? This is actually when you start, if you're building some layouts, you might think, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? But margins, they affect other elements around, but padding doesn't. So what you want to do actually is to have 1M for padding and 0 for margin. So now we will get spacing, right, from the top, but we're not affecting the other elements. So we don't have this weird gap. Maybe we can actually add like 2, something like that. Yeah. Looks like we have a navigation. So here, the next step is that when I hover on my anchor, we need to inspect the element, because anchors, all right, yeah. So see that this container, this area, needs to be grouped, right? Because you want to put it on top of the image. Because if I'm trying to inspect, I'm inspecting the image, right? Which is wrong, because yeah, it just wrong. So we want to put this my elements probably as I draw actually here, right, into the separate container. So these two supposed to go into some div, content container, right? So I'm putting that inside, and here I will set height 100%. So height 100%. So if I refresh, it's not inheriting, as you can see. And this is the problem, is that we are using the dynamic value for this element, for the height of this element. We don't have height actually, right? We have min height, but we don't have height. But if you add here, we have min height, say auto, refresh. So auto also doesn't help. I was sure that, okay, but you can actually set to 0. And now it's inheriting, right? So at least it has any value, and now it's inheriting. Okay, so we still can't inspect our elements. So you want to put our container with the content to like z index to probably like, I don't know, 5, right? And position, so you will manipulate the layer. You need to set position to something like relative, so you'll not break, come on, relative, so you'll not break the ordering of your elements. Yeah, now you can actually see your elements, right? So if you try to inspect, now you can actually inspect elements. You see that your anchor is small, right? So anchor, it takes just an area of your element of the content. But we want to have this nice border on the bottom, right? We want to create it. So let's do this. That means that we want to have padding. Where's my padding here? So we want to have padding probably not on the whole list. We can actually combine. So we have one here, and then we will have padding here to one. So we will not have too much. 1M and 0 on left and right. Refresh. So you can see that if you just set in padding, let me just inspect the element. You have the padding, but now, where's my, yeah. So you can see that it's still within, like it's overlapping on each other. So actually you want to probably just move out from, so you want to have your two paddings, so yeah, now you have a list and you have this one. Here the same. So this is the problem because you see that your element going outside your parent element, which is wrong, conceptually is wrong. So what you want to have, you don't want to fix in this way. You want to convert your anchor element. By default, it is has display inline, but you want to change it to display block in our case. So let's refresh. It stays on the same position, but now you see that the height of the li is different. The height of the li is actually based on the whole anchor, not just the content, but padding as well. So this is how you want to do. So we have a question. This will recording be published? Yeah, exactly. That will be published on our YouTube. Cool. So now we can add the element, this tiny kind of decoration for our elements, right? And I don't want to show them all the time. I want to show them when I'm hovering. So what I will do is I will use this pseudo element, which is after. And here I want to create content. So this is like a required field, basically. You need to declare, even if you don't have any content, you want to add the property content. Display block. Here you want to do position absolute. So that means that this one's supposed to be position relative. So we will keep it relative to the anchor element, and that will not run away from us. Let's see. Come on. Sorry, spellings. So this, and then I want to do bottom 0 and left 0. And the width supposed to be 50%. But we need to have height. So height will be like 2 pixels. And that means that we want to have a background color for this element. Background color would be, let's use Figma. Let's take the code from here, this one. So that will be our color, right? So let's see. Okay, looks like we have the elements, right? But I don't want to see them all the time. It takes the half of the navigation, which is great. But I want to have actually show them only when I'm hovering. So what I'm doing is that width should be by default 0. But when I hover, So when I hover on element, I want to show the after should has width 50%. So let's see. Okay, it's appearing, right? Still not great because it's just jumping. I want to change the like smoothly. So what I will do is transition 0.3 seconds. So let's see now. Right? Looks better. You have a beautiful transition. Yeah. Perfect. You have a nice animation. Maybe we can actually do even 3 pixels to make it slightly thicker. Yeah, much better. If I zoom in, perfect. Yeah. Okay, so see that in design we have capitals. So what I will do, just for all text, I will in my navigation I will set text transform uppercase. Save it, refresh, and now we have them. Perfect. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So the next is these two things, right? So let's go actually and see what do we have here. So that's supposed to be white. That's easy, right? Because I will take my content class and color to white. Refresh. It is white. Perfect. I probably want to have my H1. So let's start with H2 font weight. I will set to like 300 to make it thinner, right? And for my H2, for H1, sorry, I want to change the font size. And that will be like, I don't know, 3M. Let's see what we will get. It's just a guess. Yeah, better. Looks good to me. Yeah. So it's still too close. So I'm not sure that we probably can reduce the width here to 1024. Yeah. Maybe too much. Something in the middle would be great, but yeah, let's keep it as it is. So, how to align this to the center, right? You might ask me like, okay, so great, but how to position? And there is a few bad options, and I think, and 2 maybe good options. So for us, you can add, basically the bad option is to add some margin on the top or padding on the top, etc. You can add, probably use some positioning, stuff like that. Or you can actually, what you can do is in your content. So you can see that your content area, let me collapse this one. Your content area is small, right? Just content is small, but you have so much spare space. What you can do is for content container, you can convert it to flex. So content container, display, flex. Now we will break the layout. See it side by side because by default, flex sets the flex flow to row. So you need to change direction, flex direction to column. Now we got back to what we had before, right? But now what we can do is to set this element to grow. So now where's my content is flex grow to 1. So take the rest, all the free space basically. So again, if you, for now, you see that it is small, right? It doesn't take the full area. If I refresh, now it takes the full area, right? So now you're operating, you have this available space. And that means with Flexbox here, you can say display flex. Again, we will break the layout, right? Because that will be, oh, I didn't save, did I? Ah, right. So this is just one thing. Okay, display, we have just one element, so we're not breaking actually. Perfect. So display flex, and then flex align items to align it vertically center, right? Refresh, you have it in the middle. So this is pretty much it for the first section, right? I don't think that we have anything else in design. No, we don't. So we have a nice design. We maybe actually can change to some 1200s because obviously this is too small. 440 is too big. Yeah, I think this is better. The only problem here is I want to have my wave on the bottom. Bottom 0. See, it can be achieved, but if I do remove this one, still no. Okay, so it won't distort the image. That said, I'm just thinking, what can we do to align it? Theoretically, just to hide this kind of weird gap, because see that we have this this kind of ending of the image, which is awful. So what you can do is on the right, you can set like -10%, just a random number, but it helps us to hide actually the ending, right? And you have the problem here because now you're getting outside, so it's scrollable. But what you can do is for your main container set overflow hidden. Refresh, and now you see that it's not scrollable. So we have a properly designed first section. Looks good to me. Any questions maybe? If not, then we can actually go to the next section. Okay, let's do the next section. This one is easy as well. So we have basically two equal sections, right? We have some padding basically here. They are pretty much identical. They are mirrored, but they are identical, right? So what we can do, we can just create two elements, identical elements, and just multiply them. So first you can see that I have a container, right? So let me close the main section because we don't need it. And we have div, let's say HTML, CSS, right? Inside this, I want to have a container. So that will be just div with class container, right? There, I will have two elements, first section and the second section. So I will have two identical elements. So that means that will be multiplied by 2, right? What we have inside, we have the row. So we will do like div with class, let's say HTML for now. We will change classes a bit later. Then I have two elements inside, right? First element. So here that will be probably h2 with some text, but we will skip it for now. Plus, how many paragraphs we have? 1, 2. We have 2 paragraphs. So I will probably create a div for them. Text. And there I will have 2 paragraphs. Let me actually narrow this one so you can actually see the whole line. And for the left one, that will be a div let's call it tile, and there I will have some H2 as well, right? This is pretty much it for these two things. So hit tab, we have two tiles. That will be CSS class. We have tile, so let's fulfill the first one. I'm taking my content, putting it here, taking this content, putting it here. Oh, wait a sec, sorry, my bad, wrong position, this element. I already see that I missed one thing. Let me just put it back. So here we want to wrap this into the container, right? So this one should be div with class HTML content, and there I want to have my h1 and yeah, something like that. So now it's wrapped. We have a tile and we have the content, right? Two elements inside one row, let's say. So here we have CSS. Here that will be CSS. Now we can actually clone this, clone that, right? So we just populate in with text. Here that will be HTML. Here that will be CSS. And then we need to have some text for the first one. And then for the second one, we have more text. And same for this. So here we have first and we have second. So here. Okay. So here we had CSS3, I think, and HTML5. So let's save it, refresh, and we have the second section, right? Yeah. So here we finish with HTML. Let's actually go to the CSS. So I will create another which will be HTML and CSS section, right? So we can start styling. And you can see already that because I use container, I already aligned everything, right? So the first step is to put these two side by side. So let's do this. So for my HTML, right? And same for actually for CSS. HTML, I want to do display flex. So let's save, refresh, and now it's side by side, right? So we have one and another. Doesn't work for CSS3, so what I want to do is here just add another CSS. Refresh. Perfect, they are side by side, right? Now I want to set that width should be 50% for each section. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. I want to, for each section inside, so for here, for HTML tile, right? And text. So technically it should be just, yeah, so let's actually do this. Tile and text. And then we want to have two more for HTML, for CSS, right? Tile and text. And here I want to set width 0. Sorry, come on, width 0, not 0, 50. We have 50-50, right? This is what we want. Now on this step, we basically want to create our box on the left, right? And I want to make it kind of responsive. We will get in a second how to do this. But let me actually see. So see that we've set the width to, wait a second. Ooh, I renamed this, sorry. I renamed this to, so you have just content. That is why it doesn't work for the second one. Let's change it to just content. Refresh. Something definitely wrong, right? So we have content. See? That CSS problems, right? So we want to have main, we want to specify each section. In when you're working with Sass, it's much better. I mean, it's easier because for you, you just nesting, and that is why you don't have these problems. When you work with CSS, it might be like it might be a problem. Okay, so here, still, let me check. Edit content. So that should be tile and content, something like that. Let's try again. Perfect. Yeah, 50-50. Finally, yeah, 50-50, right? So what we will do next? We will create the box. Box will be a bit big, and you can see that here it's just narrow. So it's like it's actually narrow. So what we can do is I'm pretty sure that the width of this, yeah, it's not that. So if it's kind of big, I agree. So let me actually align it. Yeah, it's kind of big. So what we can do, let's go back to our 1020, 1024. So we will have smaller layout. Cool. So here for my content, where's these two guys, and CSS one, for CSS, what we have here is what we are doing here is that we want to set basically the background, right? So background color, for now, that will be black. Yeah, something like that. The problem is that they are not square. This is a huge problem. We want to have squares, right? Just to show you the basically the difference, say margin bottom 1M, we have just rectangles, which is not what we want. What you can do is you can set your element to padding 100 padding top, sorry, 100%. You can see that it's inheriting from the parent container, the width, the height, which is wrong. What we want to do, we know that this should be 50%, and now you have almost square. The problem is that you have some text inside. That is why it's not perfect square. So what we want to do is we style HTML2, so pretty much this. Sorry, H2, right? What we will do here, so color first, I will make it visible, so you'll see where the problem hides here. I will do position absolute, absolute, right? That means that the parent should be position relative. Now that should be top 50%, left 50%, right? And then you want to, if I save it, you will see that it's not actually aligned, right? It starts from the very center, but it's not aligned to the center. What you will do is use transform, translate, minus 50% and minus 50%. So these two numbers comes from the element height and width. So this one is from the parent height and width. This one from element itself height and width. So now it's perfectly aligned to the center, right? And if we go to, so we have HTML, CSS here. Let me add some margin. Top. Margin, let's say 3em and 0. So top and bottom 3em. So we have some spacing. Yeah. Something like that. You probably want to change the height of this element. And look at this, that once you start resizing, these squares, they are responsive, right? Which is perfect. This is what we want. Cool. Also, once you start resizing, the text start affecting your elements. So what you want to do, what you might want to do, is just set shrink 0 to your boxes. So for tile, flex shrink. That means that the other element will not shrink, will not affect your element width. So if you the neighbor, the content will not affect this one once you resize it because it doesn't have enough space. So let's try to resize. Yeah, so now we're getting to the point where we base on height, right? So that means that it's not perfect square. But it's pretty responsive, as you can see. So let's change the height, the font size. Let's say 5em. Refresh. Good. The problem here is that we have margins, right? So this is again default styling. So we want to set margin to 0 to our text. Refresh. Now they're in the middle. Perfect, right? So you might think that, okay, how you, like, we have different option, like the position is different for this one. How to fix it? And this is very, very easy. So you can physically change your layout here, right? You can change your HTML and CSS layout, just the order, so you can move this element to this side, etc. But what you can do is just go to select your just CSS. So just again, keep the order and set flex direction row reverse, and you're reversing your CSS section. So if you go here, refresh, you've done with this, right? It's super, super easy. Okay, so now this one is the matter of just little of styling, right? Because you just doing your content. So let's see, what do we have here? We have content, we have tile h1, so we can actually do HTML content, and you have the same for CSS. And then you will you want to have some padding for the content, maybe like 3em. Let's see what that will give us. Yeah, something like that. and we want to, let's go to our design. This one should be the color. So let's actually style it. So this one should be color. That should be H2. So what we're just styling the titles, right? Doing the same for CSS, but the color should be different, right? Saving, refreshing, colors are good. Now just a font size. Again, with SCSS it's much better because you can do nesting, reusing, a lot of things. But yeah, font size, let's do like 2M. Save, refresh, looks better. For p tags, what I want to do for p tags is so here, let me just click here, p tag. I want to do font weight to 300 and margin bottom, let's say 1M. Let's save it, refresh, looks better. Maybe, just guessing, we can do alignment, vertical alignment, right? So here for the content, if it's called this, we can actually do the display flex and align to the center. So we don't need to do the margin top. Where's my margin? Font size, this is for tile. For H2 here, margin top will be 0, right? And for the content, what I want to do is display again, just as we did for others, display flex, flex direction column, and justify content center. Save, refresh, and now you can see that this one is aligned as well. Yeah, to the center. Right? Pretty easy. If you want to use images that we have in design, let's actually get to these images. Is it this one? Yeah, this one. Let me show it to you. So go HTML. Let's do just HTML. Set images. Oh, this is the same. Let's just rename it to code or something, because this one is just shared one code, right? So what I will do is just for content, where's my tiles? Tiles? Tile. So we have background color, right? Here a few things, a few options. Basically, you can use as a background, and then you need to fade it out. I will show you how to do this. So let's actually do, because if you do just background, right, and just put URL, and then just do images, then you want to select code and position it to center vertically and center horizontally. That means that you will lose your dark background, right? So what you can do, another option for your H2, is just set to height. Let me just comment out these three things. So height 100%, width 100%, refresh. Okay, where's our element? Let's see. Ooh, all right, yeah. So we need to set top 0, left 0, right? Where's my, it takes the full height. So now, theoretically, let me actually just try display flex, align items center. I hope that that will work. Yeah. And now you want to do justify content center. Yes, it is in the center. But still, how to add the background, right? So for tile, where you have this background, what you can do is just filter. Well, filter. You have contrast 0.2, 20%. It's contrast, right? Not the one. You want to have, but it's still affecting actually your element, which is not what we want. Let me actually, if I do Z index, we have a few options here, and I'm just thinking which one is the best. Oh yeah, forget about this one. So because we have our H1, which takes the full height and width, right? You can set background color here and use not just hexadecimal color like 000, because you'll basically get a black background. You can do, you can achieve this with RGBA. So you will get some opacity, 0. Let's say 8. Refresh, and you have your images, right? You can do it lighter, maybe, so 70%, yeah, something like that. Looks like it is working. Cool. So yeah, well, you can change the color for sure. I bet you know how to change the color here. So this is for our CSS H2. And where's my tile? Yeah, so we don't have this. Let me just put it for a sec on the side. I want to change the color, right? Color will be this one. Right, so let's refresh. Yeah, we have our CSS here. Perfect. So yeah, as I said, you probably got here, but you got the point. That's basically, if you have the proper structure, there is no trouble to move your elements around the page. What for the next section, you still have framed all the elements, right? So feel free to copy this project and try to frame the following 2 elements. I specifically left it unframed so you can actually practice framing. So for the next section, again, you will create the div, another div. Inside this div, you will create the container. Then you will add some title. This is very easy, right? It's very easy to create. Then you will create your subtitle, and then you will have a list. So UL, because this is the same type of the content, right? So it's the same thing. So I would suggest you to create a UL with 3 LIs, and inside these LIs, if you zoom in, so this is your LI. Inside you have an image container and you have a content container, and there you will have some text like a title and just a text. And you multiply by 3, right? So try to use Emmet for that. What I'm suggesting you to revisit the video, how I was writing the Emmet. Check check the Emmet documentation and try to use Emmet to create this layout. Yeah, then you will be able to get here. So here, just explain you what is that, why here I have like a slightly shaded image with text. That means that this is a hover state. So this is a regular state, but once I hover on the image, that should change, that should add like a shade and add the text. So try to do that as well. And yeah, and this one is simple, just a simple layout. So again, I hope that you can, it's not complicated. I'm strongly suggesting you to do that on your own. You have, for the first part, you have the reference, right? Our video. For the second part, you have us in Slack. So feel free to ask questions there. And yeah, we're always there. So happy to help you and give you advice. Yeah, so I've promised you to share the slides. Change, copy. So here's a link to slides. Again, nothing much. You can probably, the helpful links is to our Slack and to YouTube. Yeah, if you're in Twitter, feel free to follow in Twitter or Instagram. But yeah, so design is here if you need it. And yeah, this is it. So you can see that like in 1.5 hours, we basically did 2 sections. That means that next 3 sections might take you another 2 hours or 3. But in the end of the day, that means that to build that kind of landing page will take you just a day, right? Like if you're not rushing, you want to polish it, make it fully responsive, etc. You will build it in a day. I also want to emphasize that you saw that we didn't add any media queries to make it responsive, but because we write in the proper CSS with flags, etc., it's already kind of responsive, right? So because we use in percentages, etc., you have almost responsive design. Of course, you need to tweak it. That's for sure. But you don't need to write a lot of media queries just because of the right approach. So don't think that if you want to have a responsive design, you need to write a lot of media queries. It's not. It's just about using proper tools basically on when you build in the desktop version. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions? Come on. Today is the most quiet audience. I know you're just super confident. You say that it's easy. We are just bored, right? Cool. Thank you. Where's the header? Which header? Sorry, header. Which header are you referring to? You mean the navigate? Oh, and footer. Yeah. So we did the first 2 sections. And then it's on you to finish these 3 sections, right? So footer is here. Header is pretty much our navigation. This is our header. But yeah, if you're asking about that, John. Yes, no? Did I answer your question? Perfect. Okay. Thank you again. Sorry, I forgot to publish because we were preparing the content. I forgot to publish the game development with JavaScript for next 2 weeks. I hope that I will do it today or tomorrow. And yeah, we have 2 more following events. So yeah, stay tuned in our meetup group. and I will see you on the next events. Thank you all, and yeah, see you next time.